It's still real to me, damn it.
Okay, where do we start? WWE, wrestling, all of that stuff. For a long time, many people were disenfranchised with WWF, WE, whatever you want to call them. Mm-hmm. For about 15 years or so, the product has not been what it was. It hasn't been something different and new, and it has not been what it was. Would you agree?
It's still real to me, damn it.
Okay.
I agree.
So, and even before that time, there was a lot of women who were disenfranchised with that late 90s hardcore, badass sort of era, because they remember the 80s when it was Hulk Hogan and, you know, big, elaborate, colorful characters and emotional moments and good guys and bad guys. So for a long time, many fans of all different sorts have been disenfranchised with wrestling. Mm-hmm. But ever since Chris Benoit killed his family, and all these guys started dropping dead from heart attacks and their hearts bursting.
Well, would you mind explaining just quickly what happened with Chris Benoit for anyone that's not familiar with the situation?
Chris Benoit had multiple concussions. His brain was like that of an 80-year-old man, and he killed. For what? No one knows what the real reason is, but he strangled his wife and son and then killed himself.
He lost his mind, I think. There's a bunch of rumors going around and whatnot. He just lost it, man. He lost it. He just flipped it. That's basically what I think happened.
Since that time, Vince McMahon could no longer, there was no denying the fact that something was wrong. These guys were dropping like flies. Mm-hmm. So WWE turned their product PG. They instituted a wellness policy, which basically means if you do steroids, you get caught. Like 3 strikes, you're out sort of thing. Look, let's face it. These guys are on the road. Body image is important. And yeah, it's going to happen. Drug use, steroid use, all of that stuff. Because as much as it is entertainment, it's also kind of considered a sport. So anyway, I watched SummerSlam. I was with my family in town here, and I said, let's order it. And I can't say I've gone out to see it at places or blast areas or bars that had it, but I don't think I've sat down like with family and watched that since I can't remember when really. I can't remember a time.
Well, back when we used to watch it when we were younger.
But even when we used to watch it, like some of the stuff there was girls flashing their breasts and everything.
Yeah.
There was a different time. But I watched it and it was really good. It was entertaining. It was the athletics were there. Gone are the days of big men who are steroided up who cannot move. Mm-hmm. You no longer feel like you're supporting some sort of zoo-like product.
Even though it still is, it's just presented a little nicer.
Yeah, for sure. It still is. I mean, those guys are worked past the point of injury, and no one wants to give up their spot because the next person comes right behind them.
That's because there's no union in place.
There's no union, and some people have said if they had a union, things would get better. Other people said wrestlers can't agree on even what to eat, let alone how to make a union.
Well, that's most people. That's why unions, some people consider unions to be the downfall of America, because when there is a union and you are protected, you don't work as hard as you normally would because your spot is protected and you can't get fired.
Right.
So there's an upside and a downside. The union would be put in place for a sports entertainment themed product just solely for the health of these people.
Right.
In my opinion.
They would probably have an even more limited work schedule, which, by the way, their work schedule has been limited since those old days. I believe those guys work about 4 days a week at this point.
They used to work 7 days. 7 days a week, twice on Sunday.
Yeah. Can you imagine how many matches Ric Flair's had over a 40-year career with that schedule?
I probably can't even count.
That's 10 times a week, 56 weeks a year. Maybe he took a couple weeks off. Let's say he had 500 matches a year times 40.
I probably can't even count, to be honest with you.
That's 5,000 times 4. He's probably had like 20, 25,000 matches. Good God. But what I
still
saw
alive.
was people who were in good shape and people who were not overly on steroids. And, you know, for those who say that that's not as attractive, what the fuck are you really supporting if you want to see people killing themselves and dying at age 30, 40 based on their hearts exploding?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say certain people that were taking steroids were all attractive. I mean, I don't think Chris Benoit was attractive. He was in very good shape.
But what I'm saying is this. Right now, they have a guy named Daniel Bryan who is like their new guy. And he's small. He's probably smaller than Chris Benoit was pre-steroids. But Chris Benoit was a great wrestler. So in this day and age, maybe the accident that happened or the situation where he killed his family would not have happened because you're taking a little guy who's there because he's good in the ring, and then you're filling him up with the steroids that the bodybuilder crew took to bring the spotlight in the first place. So it's not someone that maybe would have been naturally taking steroids in the first place. But now, because that's the norm, everyone was dabbling in that.
Yeah. I mean, plus the lifestyles were completely different. Apparently this guy, Daniel Bryan, is a vegan and he's very healthy and all that. And we've all seen Pumping Iron with Arnold, you know, eating this, 5 pounds of red meat, basically raw, and smoking cigarettes and smoking weed. Like, lifestyles are completely different, you know. So I'm sure Chris Benoit wasn't a vegan. You know, he was from Canada. He probably used to kill his own cows.
I don't know if he did that. Remember, back in the day, that wrestlers looked like your kind of strong but kind of fat uncle.
Yeah, like my dad.
Yes, wrestlers look like your dad. Wrestlers look like what the Gorons look like in Zelda. They look like... How can we say this?
They're very strong, except they have like big beer and food guts.
Yes.
But they're very, very big and strong.
And then the 80s happened, and Hulk Hogan and all that stuff with the steroid use, and it was how hypocritical that they were saying that it was vitamins that was making him like that, and saying his prayers.
The vitamins can help. I don't know about the prayers.
Most people I know that just take vitamins are not don't look like that.
Yeah, I take vitamins. I'm fucked up. I don't chew them though. I just swallow them.
Well, yeah. So what I saw was totally different. What I saw was bodies that were athletic but healthy. You know, granted, the stuff they're doing is still like very crazy, but also the wrestling has gotten better. It's almost gotten back to the 80s because, you know, in that 90s shocking time, it was very sloppy, the wrestling itself. So the show that they put on was very much about wrestling. It was about entertainment, and they kind of cooled it with all the backstage nonsense. It was good. And look, and for the first time in since Brock Lesnar came and left, what was that, the early 2000s, they have not been able to produce too many new stars. And some could say because they went publicly traded companies. Some could say because McMahon bought out all the competition, so the guys all funneled through a developmental system that was subpar to what the old, guys working in different parts of the country and then getting the job there. And some people were there for the wrong reasons. Some people who wanted to be models and bodybuilders and stuff like that. And McMahon, to his credit, as smart as he was as a promoter of entertainment, he worked himself into a position where he was the king of monopoly, and he killed off all his competition, and there was no reason to really be better because they had some ratings anyway.
Well, if he didn't actually kill them,
it's still real to me, damn it.
Right. Well, what he did was he bought out all of his competition.
Yeah.
So there was not. McMahon pushed wrestling as far as he could go and made it as big as he could. But at this point, something has to change for it to get back to where it was about heels and faces, good guys and bad guys, which I saw at this pay-per-view. And to the credit of Triple H, a lot of people talk smack about him for marrying into to McMahon's family. But I think he's running a lot of the talent-related stuff back there, and I think there's a direct correlation to that. Wrestling is on an upswing now because Triple H is running some things backstage as a boss.
Yeah, but I don't think it's ever going to reach the popularity that it did, because if you think about it, even though it was scripted, it was the first reality television, sort of. It was live, and it was a competition, and there was drama and all that kind of stuff, which is basically what all these reality shows are.
Right.
A lot of them are live. It's competition. There's drama. And they're all scripted too.
The weirdest thing about it is that they have some people that can act, but then they still do those cheesy, like, wrestling sort of backstage gimmicks once in a while. But then when you see these people on other shows or on reality shows talking, they're actually pretty decent.
Yeah. Well, they have to be in character. A lot of these characters have to be larger than life, and because
right.
they all sort of look cookie cutter and sort of the same, their personalities sometimes have to make up for it, and it just comes off as ingenuine.
Right, and then you can't force wrestlers who are not actors to do sitcom-y sort of material. Wrestling needs to be kept real. I mean, what I mean to say, of course everyone knows that it's predetermined, but there needs to be some draw to it that makes you feel that some little minute part of it is real. Whether you think two people are angry at each other backstage or whether something bad happened for real, then you could spark all the fake stuff off that. For instance, if you're having a match where the moves are, not intended to really hurt the other person, but you start it, within 5 minutes of the match, some big thing that looks sloppy and messy but real happens, like someone gets punched right in the mouth and it looks really good. Now your audience is invested and now they'll get into the story.
Yeah.
And I see, and what you're saying about the cookie cutter is true, and that's what happened over the last 10 years. Now, was it because it was a publicly traded company, and they had people in certain? The environment got much more political than it used to be. But really, not many people should know the outcome. It should be secretive, and it should be about a core group of talent that each has their own little path, and you shouldn't be bringing in talent just to throw their talent to the wayside. But, based on what I saw the other night, it was not like that. They have a bunch of new stars that some of them came from the indie scene, some of them wrestled over in Japan. So those are like the two places left where people could go. They had Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler is great, CM Punk, and then they bring in the old guys when they need them, like Brock Lesnar or even like a Triple H or Undertaker or something like this. So I definitely think wrestling's on the upswing. They're back to good guys and bad guys, and the problem existed that people were cheering the bad guys and booing the good guys. And that was the problem with Cena. And to his credit, Cena is a good guy backstage and a workhorse, But you have a situation that exists where Cena's there to sell T-shirts to kids, but he's supposed to be the good guy, and you put him in a light where he always does the best Boy Scout thing, but the crowd is booing him. So for a long time, the company was not listening to the fans.
Yeah, people don't want to see cookie cutter things. They want to see crazy things, people getting hurt, and maybe even people dying.
Yeah, that was when Mankind fell off the table, but Mankind's nerves are probably destroyed.
He seems fine. He seems, because he never took steroids or anything like that. He was a very floppy human being, to say the least.
That guy's body was like 90% scar tissue.
Oh yeah, just from his old Japan days fighting with barbed wire.
Yeah, and getting bombs exploded on his face.
Yeah, that's a whole.
But even look, after he fell off the cage, he had to turn into a comedy act because his body could not take it anymore. Yeah,
that was pretty epic. Basically, Mankind had a match with The Undertaker, and the gimmick of the match was called Hell in the Cell, which was basically a 20-foot cage over the ring, and Mankind and The Undertaker started fighting on top of the cage, and at one point, The Undertaker grabbed Mankind and threw him 20 feet onto a announcer's table. And
that was, by the way, covered in television monitors.
Yeah, covered in television monitors. The Spanish announce table, mind you, not the English.
Never the English.
No, you can't do that.
Yeah, and look, there was a video that came out on the internet of Jim the Anvil Neidhart from the 80s, and he was Some people said he was high, and some people said it was nerve damage. But you have all these horror stories of these guys who are twitching or look out of it, or their brain shot. They can't remember anything. They've been drugged up and pilled up and doped up since the point of God knows when. They had to make a change, especially now in this new world where everything's digital and information is rapid. You really can get your ass burned as a company. Look at what's going on with the NCAA. Everything that happens with the NCAA comes out and burns them now. And they're getting burned for years and years of weird practices.
They're a bunch of crooks.
I guess also in the news was that Darren Young of Tag Team Primetime Players came out as gay on TMZ. Did you see that?
I did not.
Yeah, he came out. TMZ went up to him and said, "How would you feel if there was a gay wrestler?" And he says, "Actually, I'm gay."
Just like that? He just came out just like that?
Some people are saying it seems a little staged, and some people were saying they feel he just honestly answered the question.
Are they working that angle now in the storyline?
No, this was like a real deal thing.
I guess, yeah, because, a lot of people consider it hidden, but think about it. Like, people like me and you don't walk around in the street, parade around and say, hey, I'm straight, so it would probably be the same thing. So it's not like they're hiding it, but I guess maybe nobody ever asked them, or nobody in the
Wait, you're straight?
It depends. My sexual orientation is straight. Nothing else about me is, though.
Well, here's what's interesting, though. Darren Young is on a tag team, Primetime Players, and his partner is like a big guy. He's like 6'5" to 7 foot range.
Mm-hmm.
Black dude, shaved head, jet black skin, good look, really good look, good physicality, a little awkward like big guys could be, right?
Uh-huh.
And then Darren Young is the littler guy. He's kind of like the worker of the group. He looks strangely like Cena. What happened was they were starting to get individual matches, and it seemed like of the two, the other guy, the big guy, was going to be the one getting the push in the future. So he would be the Shawn Michaels, and Darren Young would be the afterthought, the forgotten one.
Marty Jannetty.
The Marty Jannetty guy. So it is kind of an opportune time, because coming out like that and getting all the positive attention, because it's not going to be negative attention with the current climate of media, he maybe preserved himself or preserved the team, because I remember a story that came out 2 weeks earlier that said WWE was specifically looking to turn one of their guys into a next black babyface, a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
And if that was the case, it could have very well been his partner.
Okay.
So I guess there's a little bit of did he do it just because it was a natural thing, or did he see the writing on the wall, know his time was coming to an end in a way, or at least his good status with the company was coming to an end, and did he do this to prolong that a year or more, or get back in the spotlight, or something like that?
I see what you're saying. You never know. With Vince McMahon at the helm, you really never know.
Yeah, Vince McMahon could have told him, this guy might not even be gay. Who knows?
It could be.
But I guess it's just life in the new world, and I guess wrestling, at its best, wrestling is supposed to reflect society, and for a long time it was not. For a long time they were not building stars, they weren't listening to fans, but I was happy to see that things seem to be on an upswing, regardless of whether the ratings are where they once were or what. But I mean, come on, if you have a kid, and the kid, watches that, maybe you wouldn't, even though it was fun for us to see like girls whipping their boobs out when we were 13, maybe you wouldn't want your kid seeing that, Maybe you wouldn't want to possibly offend your grandma who might be walking by while someone's watching that.
That's true.
So it just is what it is. Also, George, I did watch some TV, also related to this. I did watch that Totally Divas reality show. I know we had some arguments about television, but I did want to let you know that I am watching some television.
The argument ends there. You lose.
Why is that?
You lose that argument.
That's a good show.
You absolutely lose that argument.
You said I don't watch TV, and I'm letting you know I watch some TV.
You can never. Watching TV is your choice. You don't watch any TV other than some garbage trash reality show under your own volition. Now, when I mention television, I talk about the well-produced hour dramas most of the time from quality networks, being HBO, Showtime, AMC, FX, quality networks that produce, more often than not, quality programming. Now, you watch this on, the E! channel? Possibly Spike TV?
Go on. It's on E!
On E, okay. My first guess was right. So when you scowl at me for mentioning television, and in the same breath, well, actually in a different breath, you mention that you watch a reality television show and then tell me, like, you can relate because I watch television, I'm sorry, sir. You lose.
Okay, well, anyway, listen to what this is about. This shows the girls from WWE backstage. And it's a little bit more of a real, it's got a teen rating. It shows them with their boyfriends and having relationship drama and all that sort of stuff.
Ooh, drama.
And it's very interesting. It's very interesting because it is kind of like a carnival showbiz lifestyle. But it's one that you're not used to because it's also a tight-knit family that moves around a lot on the road together.
Yeah.
So the conflicts backstage, as reported in the news, have been just as good as, and a lot of times better than whatever's written on television.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's just a behind-the-scenes look. Now, is it also scripted? Yes, but it's entertaining.
Yeah. All right. I mean, you find that one person's trash is another man's treasure. That's completely cool with me. I don't judge.
All right, so that's it. WWE, they did a good job with SummerSlam. Daniel Bryan fought John Cena. CM Punk fought Brock Lesnar. Both were good. What did you think? You saw those two matches.
It was good, but was this guy involved?
Stone Cold E.T. would like a couple of cheeseburgers and maybe a drink, and I'd like to get out here as soon as possible, and that's the bottom line.
Was Stone Cold E.T. there?
Stone Cold E.T. is a guy who dresses like Stone Cold but wears the E.T. mask and acts like Stone Cold Steve Austin. But it's good, and Stone Cold Steve Austin has a podcast now, and he's come out and he's said what he thought was wrong with wrestling. So it's good that someone with that level of prestige that was liked by that many people is coming out and saying, I want this to be good again. And it's good that a guy like CM Punk, who's a new generation guy, is saying, I'm here, and I want this to be good again, and I know what's wrong. And regardless of... And then you got a guy like Daniel Bryan, who's an ultimate talent. And then you have a guy like Vince McMahon in the fold who takes a guy like Daniel Bryan, who was just a technical wrestler, and gives him a long beard and makes him a funny-looking character. So, in terms of having a nice, well-rounded family entertainment, they're getting back to that. Now, will it be as big as it was? Who knows? But then again, look, the 1950s was a huge time for wrestling. The 1980s was a huge time for wrestling. The 1990s was a huge time for wrestling. So all they have to do is take something old and make something new. So something's got to pop at some time. At least at this point, the creative is not there, not yet, but at least they have the talent. They have the talent to do so, and which is something that they have not had for a long time. And speaking of that, it's still real to me, damn it, Guy. I don't know if you still have that clip there. Not many people want to take their kid to a independent local venue that's full of those guys. That are full of guys saying motherfucker and C-U-N-T word to the women who come out. Not many people want to take their kids there, and that's the reason why there's 20 people in the audience.
I know, because it is staged, but to some people like this guy...
It's still real to me, damn it!
Yeah, you got it queued up at the perfect moment.
It's a little scary.
But yeah, when you go, and I've been there too, and I did some wrestling training out here in L.A., and... when you go to some of these venues, some of these fans look a little crooked, man. I mean, and I like that. I'm personally entertained by that. But would a mother want to bring her child to that?
No.
9 out of 10 times the answer is no.
No, you also enjoy the carnival atmosphere, which is what these events provide.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You're saying you'd watch this Sunday Night Football over this Sunday's Totally Divas Live?
I would have to think about it. Then think about it some more.
Yeah.
Then realize that I have not had a lobotomy performed on me and just watch football.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right.